1006. 1007. 1009. Look well now, for we should be in sight of the holy well of St. Coleman. The beggar at the crossroads said it was 1,000 paces from where he stood and a few paces over. Look well now. Do you see the big ash tree that's above it?
No, not yet.
Then we must have taken a wrong turn. Flighty you always were, and maybe before the day is over, you'll have me drowned in Kiltartan River, or maybe in the sea itself.
I have brought you the right way.
What do I like about Yeats' plays? They kind of bring you somewhere that you don't necessarily think of when you first read them. They're short and to the point, very clear intention. And they have different styles and forms within them. So it's challenging for the performer to capture that. So I love a bit of a challenge.
I was saying, him being a lazy man. Stop pinching the calf of my leg, and I'll not say another word till I'm spoken to.
Text and physical movement, and then the whole stylized production itself. So it's complicated. So bringing it into a 30 minutes, 35-minute piece it's pretty intense.
Very lucky in that we have an extraordinary sound designer that's been working with us for nearly 20 years. So, and he's always very well prepared. So when we had day one of rehearsal, he arrived in and he had the chorus nearly ready to go with the music Yeats had issued for this piece. And I was able to go straight away, well, that's great, could we do something else? And not because Joe would do something better, as probably I was sure Joe would do something better. Not that he would do anything better than Yeats, but I mean it in the sense of that with his scale, just to experiment for the couple of weeks that we had rehearsal and play, he had a very good percussionist in the play. So I suppose our starting point for that was feel what felt right, and that we were fortunate enough to have enough skill in the room that had we got lost somewhere along that process, we could also double back and do something more formal.
It's always good with these pieces, especially playing in the chorus, to have a good guide, a good musical director such as Joe, because otherwise, and I've experienced this, you get the actors end up sort of fighting of which way it should go or what tone it should take and this kind of thing. But the fact that Joe is so musically skilled, you've got a very good base to begin with because of Joe's knowledge and because he's got such a great ear. This thing of trying to get a little bit of discord as opposed to harmony in how the chorus bring what they bring to it is a very difficult thing to do when you've got one person singing one note and then slightly off again. So just by the practice of it, Joe will say, it will come. You're going to have a tired voice, your ear is going to have to tune into it and all that, but because the proof is in the pudding in terms of sort of believing him. Working on it in the morning, having a little sing in the kitchen in the evening. you know, sort of going to places in terms of notes that one wouldn't normally in their everyday life.
For Wandering Whale. I'll go from the second part, the top. Yeah. Sorry. All right. Let me
Menalouche runs through the grass, lifting his delicate feet.
I was studying art actually in Italy, and a train journey, during the carnival to Venice, the train broke down and we arrived very late. So we arrived somewhere 2 or 3 in the morning, and started wandering around the streets of Venice. It was very foggy at the time, and people had just kind of left parties at this stage, and all we could hear then was kind of drunk and happen chat, in the fog. And then as we kind of get closer, all of a sudden these people appeared with masks on them, so it was quite a powerful first experience of Venice, just see these kind of characters appear out of the fog and then disappear into it very quickly again.
Can you see the big ash tree?
I do then. In the wall under it, and the flat stone and the things upon the stone. Here is a good dry place to kneel in.
Will you make it down so?
The face mask was done was just using plaster of Paris bandages, and you just kind of layer strips of those bandages over her face. So when I have it at that stage, I pour positive face in that again, just fill that again with plaster of Paris. When how I start off, just roll out a bit of clay and I just kind of build it. Say this one I'm just running roughing it out at the moment. So you start off with the first layer of clay, just roughly, to give a thin layer over the face. So at this point now, I'm refining the lines. So I start using some tools. Yeah, no, this is now the second stage I'm working on, because we tried out the first stage on Fiona and some of the features were still too soft. So what I'm doing now today is I'm just kind of building up some areas a bit more. I'm sharpening these angles around the cheekbones and just everywhere, just going to get a bit of extra sharpness into these lines, because sometimes when something looks fine here, when you bring it in under the theatre lights, it's not strong enough, so you have to really test it out under the lights to see, because there'll be a lot of light and shadow on it, so just some of the features need to be really strengthened up more, so that's what we're doing now, because what would work fine as a mask under other circumstances doesn't work as a theatre mask, because it wouldn't be dramatic enough. So.
Then I will tell you why you are not a great fool. When you have to go out to pick up a chicken, or a stray goose on the road maybe, or a cabbage from a neighbour's garden, I have to go riding on your back. And if I want a cabbage or a goose or a chicken, I must have your 2 legs under me.
That's true now. And if we were whole and went different ways, there'd be as much again between us.
And your own goods keep going from you because you are blind.
Well, rogues and thieves you all are, but there are some I may have my eyes on yet.
Because there's no one to see a man slipping in at the door or throwing a leg over a wall of a yard, you are a bitter temptation to many a poor man. And I say it's not right. It's not right at all. There are poor men who, because you are blind, are delayed in purgatory.
Wearing a mask is a challenge, a new challenge for me. I'd never done mask before. I'd watched it many times in this rehearsal room and often wondered if I'd be able to do it. And I found the complexity of the language. I found that I started from the inside out as opposed to the outside in, and tried to articulate the mask with the language itself, and the thought of the character as opposed to imposing a movement on top of it. So that seemed like a natural step, and it seems to have gone all right.
While we're Blue Raincoat aren't capable of doing the perfect Yeats play, we've been doing Yeats plays for quite a long time, so we're good at them. You know, so like we're able to come at the broad challenge of the complicated Yeats plays quite quickly, because there is, as you said, there's the lyricism of the text, but there also is the movement, and ultimately there's things like this which are very difficult, which are like how do you use a mask and speak at the same time, because Yeats must be the very few, if only, that I know of anyway, in Western theatre, a person that puts a full mask onto somebody and asks them to speak through it. So at least in comedy, the art, it's a half mask, and they've compensated for problems like that. So you could nearly go, it's the only mistake that he makes dramaturgically in his mask plays, is that they have masks, because to speak with them in a nearly non-stylized manner can create difficulty. Some actors are able to do, some characters he creates are more, are easier to do like that, you know, the less cerebral they are, you know what I mean, the more expressionistic the characters are, using the text and the mask becomes easier. Like if it reverts at all into sort of a Western psychological theatre with the mask, it nearly negates itself, and it becomes a horrendously difficult thing for the performer to do, like marrying those two forms, so it doesn't seem like two things. So if I put it this way, for the audience, it doesn't seem like a bloke on stage with a mask. It seems like an entity in itself, that you actually buy into the marionette, the puppet, the character that's been created. Thank you. Last time. I've been involved in 4 or 5 of Captain Min's before. I've been in every one. I've never directed one before. And when we did this one, I pushed further in the sense of wanting to build on the type of work we've done before, again in terms of the style and the forms of the pieces.
That's the beauty of having an ensemble, that's the beauty of having our own space. We can come back and revisit work again and again and every time. So it's not all the work, all the knowledge that we have from having previously produced this play, we bring with us.
Are you in reach of my arm?
I am not blind, man. You wouldn't touch me at all. But as I was saying...
Will you be cured? Or will you be blessed?
Lord, save us. That's the saint's voice, and we're not on our knees.
Is he standing before us, lame woman?
I
was constantly teasing or probing and looking for an informality. That was the words. His direction was coming in that way. So it was an inform. Once we got over the initial interruption of will you be cured, will you be blessed, and we had to sort of kind of come in hard on the line because it's a cut in the line. But after that, then it was nearly about his humanity, his sense of his being lonely, his sense of he knows what the lame beggar has done, she has the sheep. So it's to try and find a balance there between the conceptions, preconceptions of what a saint is and this sort of untouchable holy, and yet to try and find some way to communicate that to find a humanity within the saint and to have this very sort of informal line through it.
Lame woman. Will you be cured, or will you be blessed?
What would it be like to be blessed?
You would be of the kin of the blessed saints and of the martyrs.
Is it true now that they have a book? And they write the names of the blessed in that book?
Many a time I have seen the book, and your name would be in it.
Oh, it would be a grand thing to have my 2 legs under me. But I'm thinking it'd be a grander thing to have my name in that book.
It would be a grander thing.
Then I will stay lame, holy man, and I will be blessed.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I give this blind man sight, and I make this lame woman blessed.
Well, I think sometimes simple is the hardest thing to achieve, For me, as a designer, especially in a play like this, the set should really, it should be at the back of the audience's mind. It shouldn't be something at the forefront. And I'd be more worried if people were coming out talking about what a set was doing in a play like this, or how clever it was, or because that's not what the purpose is supposed to serve, Again, the real idea is that it brings people to a place, and that sits somewhere in the back of their mind. And to that purpose, I think it serves its purpose, really. The reason I chose the materials I did was basically the idea of, for practical reasons and aesthetic reasons, the materials that I chose, they carry light, they do lots of different things. They could be very functional, but also, for me, it should be evocative of them, rice paper walls, you see, to me that immediately just kind of centered me in that place, I'm just immediately thinking of the Orient when I see that, without having to think about it, without having to distrain myself or anything. It just immediately settles me in a place. Something as minimalist as this, it's essential, because the whole play area where all the action happens, there is no set. So the way I've treated the floor only works with the lights. You turn off the lights and you see the way the floor is painted, it looks like nothing. But at the same time, if I took the treatment off the floor, completely changes how the lights work. One, the floor absorbs lights in different places, helps it not to bounce and spill, but it's treated with quite a few different colours, which will help change the mood as the lights change.
A couple of days ago, he was a lot more over.
Yes.
And he's a lot more up now. Well,
Okay.
he's up now, which I
which I know is certainly more difficult for me to hold on.
It'll actually make his walk more difficult.
That's what I think. And when he gets to here, he goes down and he walks there, and that's imperfect.
Yeah. When he
Do you know
gets to
what I mean?
where?
When he gets to the finishing point to go on to the profile, he goes down.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe that's making it difficult for him.
But that's great, because I can also in and around there, so
Okay.
yeah, excellent. The challenge that always comes to me is stories of form and stories of telling the story through the form. And it sounds simple, but it's a complicated thing for an audience member. But like, an audience member is broadly intelligent and will sit down, and no matter what form you choose to tell that story in, they will go with it, but you have to be consistent with that.
That is a soul lost, holy man.
Maybe so.
And I'd better go, 'cause he'll rouse the whole country against me.
You'll do that.
I have it in my mind not to even myself with the martyrs and the holy confessors until I'm more used to being blessed.
Bend down your back,
What for, holy man?
that I may get up on it.
Sure, my lame legs wouldn't bear the weight you.
when we did the dance, it was just about gathering different types of instruments, different toys, if you like, to see what would work, what would feel right, and we had this kind of general vibe that the chorus create anyway in their song at the beginning of the play to bring us into this bit of a meditative space, and you know, to really let the characters come to us, you know, as they do, and how we enter the two masked characters. So. Playing with these chimes and the bells that I'm lucky to have, these instruments that are based on harmonics, and they have a scale as well, which reminds you of I heard someone say like a sound bath, or they're like the singing bowls, you know, just like a bell brings you to something else. If it's an announcement or one in the church towers, it's for that attention, you know, to get the attention, and it's very light at the same time into your mind. So to approach it with that, with the chorus, kind of created this holy space, this kind of it kind of cleared the palette, if you like, for the mind to set up the frame for what this piece would be. And then with the strong punctuations of different emotion behind the masked characters, brought a nice balance to the sound throughout the play, coming out from this singing, the nice chant, with the bells to hard punctuations with drum. So to fall back into the likes of the holy movements, to try and find the sounds as she's trying to find her limbs again, you know. And it wasn't a worry about trying to get it right, you know, trying to have a full piece, as it was with her trying to find her full self again.
To me, the whole thing about the dance that we have produced for this show is that it's the beginning of a dance. It's seeing a woman realize that she can actually lift her feet and put it on the ground, and she can straighten her body, and then it's a slow progression to a walk, to lifting her legs in the air, to then this graceful, silent ballerina, you know, hopefully, going around the space.
it's in the middle of the day. People come from their existence, their worlds, or wherever they are, their jobs, their minding their children or whatever, and they take an hour out of their day and they drop into this sort of world, and it's quite immersive in a way. And I think you can lose yourself for an hour, and in the modern day, that's a bit of a treat, I think, and people appreciate that.